I never imagined such a simple decision could completely transform my life. For years, I lived trapped in cycles of fatigue, wasted energy, and a constant feeling of emptiness. I believed it was normal to feel drained, without vitality, as if life was just about surviving. But I was wrong. And it was only when I decided to preserve my energy that I discovered a powerful secret. It all began discreetly. It wasn't a magical promise, nor an instant miracle. It was a daily, almost silent choice that shaped my body, mind, and even spirit. I had no idea how much I was missing until I experienced the difference. It was as if I had opened a door to a new dimension of my own existence. I remember the first changes, almost imperceptible. A little more energy, a firmer gaze, a deeper sleep. And soon these details became gigantic. People started telling me, "You look different." And I knew they were right. I wasn't the same anymore. It was then that I realized something surprising. Semen retention wasn't just about the body. It was about presence, magnetism, mental clarity, quality of life. It was about becoming whole, complete, connected to one's own essence. And this reflected in everything around me. The most impressive thing was noticing how the world responded to my transformation. I didn't need to tell anyone what I was doing. People simply felt it. They looked at me differently, treated me differently, reacted to my presence in ways I'd only dreamed of before. And all this without complicated formulas, without miracle tricks, without masks. Just an ancient practice that was before my eyes and that, for a long time, I ignored. When I finally embraced this path, I realized it was much more than I imagined. You might be wondering, is this really real? I doubted it too at first. But when I started living it in practice, I understood that some things can only be discovered through experience. There's no point in reading, hearing, or doubting. You have to feel it in your skin, in your body, in your face, in your energy. And if you're tired of feeling weak, drained, and lacking vitality, maybe this is the answer you're looking for. Because I've been there too, stuck in a cycle with no way out, and it was this practice that freed me. Not just physically, but in every aspect of my life. Looking back now, I see that it was the most important decision I've ever made. It changed my body, transformed my face, expanded my aura, and gave meaning to my life. It all started with a simple step, but it required courage and discipline. And it's about this journey that I want to open my heart to you now. A story of transformation, of falls and rebirths, of discoveries and achievements. Because if it changed my life, it can change yours too. There are times when the mirror doesn't lie. It becomes almost a silent confidant, revealing what I don't always want to see. The tired expression, the dull skin, the eyes lacking their former intensity. All of this was a reflection of something deeper. It wasn't just about appearance, but about how I was managing my vital energy. My face spoke, even when I insisted on remaining silent. For a long time, I blamed stress, overwork, and even genetics for my burnout. But deep down, there was something invisible robbing me of my vitality. It was as if I lived with a tap running, wasting my essence every day. When I realized this, I felt I had uncovered the root of many problems I had been silently carrying. That's when I realized I needed to truly change. For years, I thought I was just tired. I woke up feeling unmotivated, had dark circles under my eyes, and carried the marks of an unbalanced life on my face. It was in this state that I encountered semen retention. At first, I was hesitant, but I decided to give it a try. The difference appeared gradually, almost imperceptibly, until one day I realized my appearance was changing. I've always heard that the face is a reflection of the soul. Today, I say it's also a reflection of inner energy. While I was wasting my essence, my face betrayed it, lifeless eyes, slack muscles, and a look of discouragement. But when I decided to preserve that energy, the opposite happened. My eyes brightened, my jaw strengthened, and my countenance exuded confidence. One example that struck me was that of high-performance athletes. I discovered that many of them, consciously or not, practice retention during competition periods. The result is not only physical, but also visible in their faces. More defined faces, intense expressions, a magnetic presence. I realized that body and energy work together and that I too could achieve this state. My turning point began with a simple moment, looking in the mirror and not recognizing myself. That dull expression seemed to scream that something needed to change. That was the day I decided to preserve my vital energy. I didn't see it as a mere technique, but as a commitment to myself. And the reflection of that decision gradually appeared on my face. Interestingly, the people around me noticed before I did. I started hearing, "You're more rested, your gaze is different, there's something new about you." These changes didn't come from expensive creams or long nights of sleep, but from the choice to stop wasting what was my source of power. It was at that moment that I realized the silent impact of withholding. It was as if my face held secrets and suddenly decided to share them with the world. The dark circles under my eyes diminished, my skin became more vibrant, and my face became firmer. This external transformation was just a sign of something much bigger happening inside. With each passing day, I realized it wasn't just appearance, but pure energy reflected within me. The change wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. My face gradually shed its wear and tear and began to reflect vitality. It was an almost mystical process, but at the same time too real to ignore. No filter or makeup can imitate the genuine energy that comes from within. My face became living proof of my renewal. And although my face was the first to show signs, it didn't stop there. Gradually, I noticed my entire body responding differently. My posture, my muscles, even my skin. Everything reflected a vigor I'd never felt before. And it's precisely this bodily transformation that I want to share now. When I started with semen retention, I felt a bit lost, not knowing where to begin. That's why I created a straight-to-the-point ebook, with everything I wish I had learned at the beginning. It's a clear, simple, and safe step-by-step guide. The link is in the first pinned comment. Just click. At first, I confess I didn't quite believe my body could react so intensely. I thought it was just a psychological thing, a passing sensation. But as the weeks went by, I began to notice concrete changes. My muscles seemed to respond better to exercise, my breathing was more even, and even my skin had a different texture. It was as if my body had received a new fuel source. Before, I was hunched over, as if carrying an invisible weight on my shoulders. My posture betrayed a lack of energy, slumped shoulders, arched back, heavy steps. With the retention, I felt something different supporting my body. My chest felt more open, my shoulders firmer, and even my walk became more confident. I didn't have to force anything. My body simply adjusted naturally. The most curious thing was noticing how small daily activities became easier. Climbing stairs without getting out of breath, carrying heavy bags without feeling so tired, even waking up feeling refreshed without needing gallons of coffee. The vitality that had previously seemed lost began to gradually return. I felt like my energy wasn't draining as quickly. This transformation also reflected in my physical training. Before, I'd go to the gym half-heartedly, just out of obligation. Now, I noticed my muscles were fuller, my recovery faster, and my endurance increased. It was as if every ounce of preserved energy was redirected to strengthening my body. I began to enjoy training, pushing myself, and feeling my body alive. Even my breathing changed. Previously, I took shallow, anxious breaths, as if I were always racing against time. With breath retention, my breathing became deeper, more natural, and calm. This brought not only physical but also mental benefits. Calm breathing calms the heart and clears the mind. And that's when I realized my body and spirit were aligning. People around me began to notice that I seemed stronger, even without any major external changes. It was that quiet, almost invisible strength that was present. When someone complimented me, they'd say, "You seem firmer, more centered." And I knew this was no coincidence. It was a reflection of an energy that was no longer being wasted. I also began to feel more sensitive to what I put into my body. Heavy foods, full of fat and sugar, no longer suited the new energy I was cultivating. I started choosing lighter, more nutritious foods, and I noticed how this further enhanced the results. It was as if my body was saying, Now you're feeding me the right way. My sleep also changed. Before, even after sleeping 8 hours, I'd wake up feeling restless. Now, my sleep was deeper and more restorative, and I woke feeling refreshed. This change was directly reflected in my body: relaxed muscles, a fresh mind, and renewed energy. I realized that preserving energy during the day also meant truly recovering at night. The feeling of being stronger didn't just come from my muscles or posture. It was an inner strength, hard to explain but easy to feel. I knew something inside me was reorganizing, as if my body was finally receiving what it had always needed. Semen retention not only preserved energy but redirected that energy to make me whole. And even though my body was the second to reveal this transformation, it wasn't the only one. Because after my body came something even more visible: my face. And it was there that I noticed even clearer signs that I was becoming a renewed version of myself. I'd always heard that the face is the mirror of the soul, but I'd never understood it so deeply until I started this practice. For the first few days, it seemed like nothing had changed, but after a few weeks, I noticed a different sparkle in my eyes. It was as if my eyes were more alive, conveying something that words can't describe. People began to understand before I even admitted it to myself. The dark circles under my eyes, once my faithful companions, began to fade. I no longer wore that tired expression that seemed to tell the whole world the story of my sleepless nights. My gaze became clearer, my skin felt less heavy, and even my wrinkles seemed to soften. It was remarkable how an internal change was so clearly reflected on my face. What surprised me most was the firmness of my expression. Before, my face conveyed insecurity, as if something were missing. Over time, my jawline became more pronounced, my features more defined, and my expression grew in confidence. It wasn't just aesthetic, it was energy. Anyone who looked at me sensed the strength in my expression. I remember one specific day when a friend said to me, "Your face looks different. It seems like you carry a piece you didn't have before." That struck me deeply, because it wasn't just about beauty, but about presence. I didn't need to say anything. My face spoke for me. It was as if the withholding had turned on a light behind my expression. I also noticed that my smile had changed. It was no longer just an automatic gesture, but charged with authenticity. People reacted differently, as if my expression conveyed confidence and serenity at the same time. I had discovered that the face can be a silent weapon of influence, and all of this happened because energy was being preserved. Even small imperfections began to lose their significance. That pimple that bothered me or the subtle mark in the corner of my eye no longer carried the same weight. Because when the entire face conveys vitality, these details cease to be the center of attention. The entire face seemed to communicate something greater: balance. Another fascinating detail was noticing how my gaze became more penetrating. Before, I would avert my eyes, finding it difficult to maintain eye contact. Now, when I look at someone, I feel like I'm conveying security. My gaze has gained depth, as if it were able to penetrate invisible layers. It's hard to explain, but holding my gaze has brought intensity even to the way I see the world. I can't deny that this also impacted the way people treated me. I began to feel more respect, more attention, as if my presence had acquired a new weight. I no longer needed to impose myself. It was my face, my countenance, that began to speak for me. The vital energy, previously wasted, was now felt in my expression. The change was so clear that even in old photos, the difference was evident. I compared pictures from months ago with those from now, and it seemed like I had rejuvenated. It wasn't just vanity, it was a realization that preserving my essence transformed my appearance. My face became a living portrait of my inner energy. But this transformation didn't stop there. Because after noticing the change in my face, I began to notice something even deeper: a shift in my own aura, in the way people sensed my presence even before they saw me. It was at this point that I began to feel something difficult to put into words: the transformation of my aura. It wasn't just my face or body that was changing, it was the energy around me. I noticed different looks, even from people who didn't know me. It was as if my presence arrived before me, opening up space, silently drawing attention. In social gatherings, where I'd previously gone unnoticed, I was now effortlessly noticed. I didn't need to speak louder or impose myself. I just had to be present, and it seemed like my energy filled the room. Some call it magnetism, others charisma, but I knew it was a direct result of retention. My aura had expanded. This magnetism wasn't just visible, it was also felt. When I spoke, people paid closer attention, as if my words carried extra weight. It wasn't just what I said, but how my energy carried each sentence. Retention brought an invisible power, capable of generating impact without me having to force anything. I remember walking into a room full of people and, without realizing it, all eyes were on me. I wasn't dressed flashily, and I didn't make any sudden movements. It was simply my presence that made itself felt. This made it clear to me that the aura speaks before the mouth. This change also influenced my relationships. People who previously hadn't noticed me began to approach me. I attracted conversations, glances, and even opportunities that previously seemed distant. All this without changing my essence, simply cultivating the vital energy that had previously been wasted. It was as if I had unlocked a forgotten power within myself. The curious thing is that this magnetic presence wasn't arrogant. On the contrary, it was charged with serenity. People felt comfortable around me, as if my energy exuded confidence and calm. I didn't need to compete or prove anything. The magnetism lay in the simple fact of being present, whole, connected to my own strength. Even conflict situations became different. Where I once felt small, I now stood firm. My energy held the space, and this completely changed the dynamic. I realized that the aura isn't just charm or attraction, but also protection. It creates an invisible field that prevents negative energies from taking over. This realization made me understand why so many spiritual masters speak of the importance of cultivating energy. Semen retention was not just a physical practice, but an exercise in strengthening my energy field. My aura became a reflection of this preserved energy, radiating vitality outward. Over time, I began to trust this magnetism more and more. I knew my presence was powerful, and that gave me peace of mind. I didn't need to chase validation because I already carried within me the energy I naturally attracted. It was liberating to realize I didn't need to seek attention, it came to me. And it was in this state of energetic plenitude that I understood something even more profound. It wasn't just my aura that was transforming, but the very quality of my life. Everything began to change, from my choices to the way I saw the world. When I think of the word quality of life, I used to think of external things, money, travel, material possessions. But after immersing myself in this practice, I realized that true quality comes from within. It was the vital energy that gave meaning to everything. Without it, even what seemed abundant became empty. With it, even the simple gained a special brilliance. Mornings are no longer a burden. Before, waking up was a struggle, and the clock became my enemy. Now, I wake up feeling refreshed, as if my body has found its natural rhythm. This difference changes everything. The way we work, the way we relate, even the way we dream bigger. Life isn't just about obligations, but about how we feel when we fulfill them. Everything I'm explaining to you here, I've already organized calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. I wrote it with those starting from scratch in mind and needing a practical guide, without fluff or exaggeration. It's exactly the material I wish they had given me at the beginning. I also noticed that my mind became clearer. The anxiety that previously drove me to rush and make rash decisions began to fade. I could better organize my thoughts, focus, and act calmly. This clarity brought productivity, but also peace. Living well isn't just about doing a lot, but about doing what matters. Even the way I relate to time has changed. Before, I felt like the hours were slipping through my fingers, as if there were never enough. Now, it felt like I had more time, not because the day had more hours, but because my energy was so much more productive. This sense of control brought a lightness I had never experienced before. My interpersonal relationships were also impacted. With more energy and balance, I listened better, connected more genuinely, and exuded confidence. The people around me noticed this difference and began treating me differently. Life becomes more meaningful when our relationships flourish, and retention gave me that gift. Creativity, which had been dormant, began to awaken. Ideas emerged more easily, projects seemed more feasible, and even problems became opportunities. It was as if my mind had more space to create, no longer burdened by constant energy losses. This renewal opened doors I hadn't even seen before. With this, I realized that quality of life isn't just the absence of pain or suffering, but the presence of fulfillment. I felt more whole, more connected to what I was doing, more present in every moment. Even mundane tasks, like cooking or walking down the street, took on a new flavor. Life became richer in details. Another important aspect was discipline. Retention requires self-control, and this habit spread to other areas. I started to pay better attention to my diet, my sleep, my work, and even my leisure time. Everything became more balanced, and I realized that quality of life is also the result of conscious choices. And the most surprising thing was noticing how all this translated into genuine happiness. Not a fleeting happiness dependent on external stimuli, but a serene joy that springs from the simple fact of being alive and full of energy. This feeling has become my greatest asset. And when I reached this point, I understood that retention wasn't just an isolated practice, but a path of transformation. Each change in my body, face, aura, and life connected in a virtuous cycle. But this story doesn't end here, because there's still much more to be revealed. Today, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see a firmer face or a healthier body. I see a reflection of discipline, courage, and conscious choices. Each line carries the story of someone who decided to stop wasting their energy, and that changed everything. What was once fatigue and insecurity is now vitality and presence. But this transformation didn't happen overnight. It was the result of falls, attempts, and the insistence on always getting back up. I discovered that retention isn't just about holding on, but about learning to channel it. It's about transforming an instinct into creative power, mental clarity, and inner strength that no one can steal. The most impressive thing is that this practice requires nothing more than yourself. It's not a closely guarded secret, not locked away in distant temples or inaccessible books. It's in your hands, in your daily discipline, in your decision not to give in to easy impulses and to build something greater for yourself. And here's the truth few want to admit: the world is full of drained, dull, and dull-eyed men. I myself was once one of them. But when you choose to preserve your essence, you naturally stand out. Your energy speaks before your voice, and the world responds. It's no exaggeration to say that this practice has changed my quality of life. I sleep better, think more clearly, feel confident in every gesture. This is priceless. Retention has shown me that happiness isn't a matter of luck, but of energy. And when you control your energy, you control your life. Now, the question remains, what will you do with this? Will you just listen to this story and go back to your old habits? Or will you decide to try it for yourself and see how far you can go? Because no one can live this experience for you. I can tell you about the changes in your body, face, and aura, but only you can experience the impact of this choice. Only you can experience the difference between being guided by impulse or mastering your own energy. This decision is yours, and yours alone. If you've come this far, it's because you feel something inside you calling for change. Don't ignore this call. That's how it began for me, a quiet restlessness that turned into an inner revolution. Perhaps this is the sign you've been waiting for. I chose to take that step and never looked back. Today, I live with more energy, more presence, and more meaning. And if this was possible for me, it's possible for you too. Just choose. Just start. So I ask you, are you ready to discover who you truly are when your energy is no longer wasted? The decision is before you now. And if I were you, I wouldn't put it off. If you want to take the first step with awareness and confidence, click the pinned comment link now. This ebook was written by me, based on my own experience, so you don't waste time or make the mistakes I've made myself. It's direct, objective, and will accelerate your progress.